I think I mentioned before that I'm a practicing Catholic, and I've been teaching Catechism for nearly 2 decades. When I made this channel, I told myself I wasn't going to discuss my faith, but, well, the Pope decided to pull up to the party, and I could not talk about it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lofiapocrypha, where we talk about things that aren't that deep until they actually are. I'm your host, momchalant. Today's topic is one that is admittedly a little more personal than usual. Back in 2019, after moving to Florida, we accidentally attended an SSPX mass in the middle of some backwater swamp. My family and I were looking for a new parish, and well, let's just say we never went back. I expected a standard, typical Sunday Mass, only to find myself in a situation that felt less like a congregation and more like an exclusive, theological, I'm not like other girls moment. I had my veil on, I was rocking a skirt. Listen, I was prepared. And yet the second we stepped into the sanctuary, the vibes were immediately off. People looked at me with unbelievable scorn for arriving 2 minutes just before the priest came in. Like we had single-handedly brought about, I don't know, the fall of Constantinople or something. Yo, this was not your average parish that welcomed newcomers. If you're Catholic, you might already know what the hell is happening here, and if you're not Catholic, don't worry, we'll get there. I'm gonna walk you through it. What surprised me wasn't that the Mass was being celebrated in Latin. I attended Latin Mass every Sunday before I got married. I still veil, I still observe dress code at Mass every Sunday to this day. Traditional expressions of the faith aren't foreign to me. It was the atmosphere surrounding who that congregation considered to be Catholic that I found, well, concerning. You could absolutely tell that you were not welcome, that you did not belong, which, I mean, given it said on Google Maps that this was a Catholic church that had Mass at 9 a.m., it was a bit confusing. Like, what did I miss? It makes no sense. And that experience got me thinking about something much larger than one little dinky parish in the middle of a swamp. It got me thinking about gatekeeping. And most of us know what gatekeeping looks like.
You've only watched the movies? You're not a real fan.
You started playing after the remake? Fake gamer. You didn't read the original source material? Ugh, LARPer. We've all met that person. But there's another form of gatekeeping that's much more interesting. Instead of saying you don't belong, it says, we're the only ones who still belong. I like to call that reverse gatekeeping. Now, before anyone opens the comment section with the enthusiasm of a medieval crusade, let me make something clear. This episode isn't about attacking Catholics who prefer the traditional Latin Mass. The Catholic Church endorses and encourages the celebration of the Latin Mass, and generations of faithful Catholics have found true spiritual nourishment through it. This episode also isn't dedicated to criticizing individuals associated with the SSPX. People arrive at different communities for different reasons, most of them sincere, and none of which I am in a position to question. So instead, I want to examine a much broader human tendency, because this isn't just about Catholics. Every community eventually faces the temptation to believe that they alone have remained faithful, while everyone else has become weaklings and LARPers. You'll find it in fandoms, politics, academia. You'll find it in gaming communities, in philosophy departments, and yes, absolutely you'll find it in religion. So to understand why the vibes were so off, before we get into the SSPX, we need about 5 minutes of Catholicism 101. And don't worry, we're taking the scenic route. This is not a doctoral dissertation. If you've ever wondered why Catholics care so much about who's in communion with whom, Congratulations, you've accidentally wandered into 2,000 years of church history. So here's the abridged version. Catholics don't believe the church is simply a collection of people who agree on the same ideas. That's not how it works for us. We believe it is a visible institution founded by Christ, led by bishops who are successors to the 12 apostles, with the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, serving as a visible sign of unity. So think less club and more family. Families argue, families get messy, sometimes spectacularly to the point of damaging relationships, but they're still meant to remain a family no matter how dysfunctional it looks. That's why Catholics use the phrase being in communion. Communion isn't just agreeing on doctrine, it's remaining united under the same sacramental and ecclesial authority, even when you disagree about papal decisions, liturgical preferences, or, I don't know, which parish consistently forgets to refill the holy water fonts. And that distinction, that is the basis of today's story. Chapter 2. Enter Vatican II. Or, as it's often portrayed online, the event that either saved Christianity or destroyed Western civilization before breakfast. Depending on who you ask. The reality of Vatican II is considerably less dramatic. Between 1962 and 1965, the Catholic Church held the Second Vatican Council. A council isn't the church inventing a new religion. It's essentially the bishops of the world gathering to discuss how the church should address particular questions facing the modern age. It's not about changing doctrine. It's not about, molding things to be more popular. It's just how do we navigate the modern world. Vatican II produced several documents on everything from religious liberty to the role of the laity, ecumenism, and the liturgy. Some Catholics welcomed many of these changes. Others were deeply concerned that important traditions were being lost. And to be fair, not every implementation of the Second Vatican Council was exactly a masterpiece. You know why? Because humans remain wonderfully capable of taking good ideas and making them weird. Chapter 3. So, what is the SSPX? One priest who became increasingly concerned was Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre. He believed many post-conciliar developments represented a dangerous break from Catholic tradition. In 1970, he founded the Society of St. Pius X, or SSPX, to preserve traditional Latin Mass and clerical practices. Up to this point, you could summarize the story as a traditional priestly society that strongly disagreed with the modern direction that many things were heading to. And that's not especially unusual. Every large institution has internal disagreements. The real conflict came with the choices made about those disagreements afterwards. Chapter 4. The Line in the Sand. In 1988, Archbishop Lefebvre consecrated 4 bishops without papal approval. Now that's kind of a big deal, and I'm going to explain it to you if you're not a Catholic. In Catholic theology, bishops aren't just middle managers, they're successors of the 12 apostles. Consecrating bishops without the Pope's authorization wasn't just simply a policy violation. It was understood as rupturing communion with the visible structure of the church. It's a big deal. That's why the Vatican declared that the bishops involved had incurred excommunication, which means you don't belong to the church anymore. You're not one of us anymore. Years later, those excommunications were lifted by Pope Benedict XVI as part of an effort towards reconciliation, the way families do, no matter how dysfunctional they appear. On the 1st of July 2026, the SSPX performed an unauthorized 5-hour-long Episcopal consecration ceremony using the traditional pre-Vatican II Latin Tridentine Rite. Because the group proceeded despite a final personal plea from Pope Leo, the Holy See in Rome officially deemed the consecration a schismatic act, resulting in automatic excommunications the following day. Which brings us back to today's topic. Now, the core beef is essentially this. The SSPX views the changes that came after Vatican II not just as a policy shift, but as a total collapse of authority. To them, the modern church isn't just different, it's essentially a fever dream. It's what you get if you have one too many perp drinks and took a very special kind of mushrooms. To them, the church is impaired and they, the SSPX, are scared. And when you wholeheartedly believe the institution has lost the plot, obedience becomes optional. It's not just a disagreement on Latin Mass versus common vernacular Mass, it's a fundamental question of whether the modern church is even the actual church anymore. Okay, now notice something here. Up until now, everything we've discussed has been history and doctrine, but that actually isn't what interests me. It's the human behavior, because once you strip away the Latin, the canon law, the ecclesiastical terminology, the story becomes surprisingly familiar. Every community will ask the same set of questions eventually. Who counts as one of us? Chat, this is not a drill. This is a test. Who counts as one of us? That's a healthy question. Communities need boundaries. If everyone belongs no matter what, eventually the community stops meaning anything. But then something strange happens. Sometimes protecting the gate slowly becomes more important than protecting what's behind it. Chapter 5, The Mandalorian of Orthodoxy. And this is where we get into the fun stuff, the reverse gatekeeping. Chat, are you seeing the pattern here? Usually gatekeeping is about keeping people out. You know the drill. You're not a real Warhammer fan unless you've read every obscure novel in the Black Library. You're not a real Catholic unless you do X, Y, and Z. But this is an inversion. The SSPX premise is we are the true church, and by existing as a modern institution, you are the ones who are out. You are walking out of the true church. It's giving textbook Mandalorian in the worst possible way. SSPX insists this is the way, but the way implies that the last 60 years of church history were just a collective hallucination. They've essentially built a new fence and are looking over at it at the rest of us, telling the original builders they're trespassing. It is truly the ultimate main character energy play. Chapter 6, The Temptation of the Purity Test. Y'all, this is so dang exhausting for me. Why do faithful, intelligent people fall for this? Why do they keep touching the cosmic stove when they know it's hot? When they know there's consequences? And, well, because the purity test is intoxicating. If the world is messy, if the church is complicated, if human existence is, human, then the temptation to build a smaller, tighter, more exclusive group is always there. If everything else is corrupt, the only safe harbor is the community that agrees with my specific set of structures. Again, it's not just Catholicism. It's the same pattern I see in gaming forums, academic elitism, you name it. It's the comfort of believing that you are the remnant faithful, rather than just a faithful member of a massive, flawed body of humans. Chapter 7, The Final Boss. The universe remains complicated. The questions remain unanswered. The choices stay difficult. And the mystery? Well, the mystery stays annoying. I don't know what to tell you, but maybe, just maybe, humility is a better look than declaring yourself the final boss of orthodoxy, that you are the true representation of Christ on earth, that you're sanguineous protector of the eternity gate. And I don't say that to be mean. I say it because I want us to be co-investigators, not just people looking for a smaller, fairy ring to live in. Building a fence is easy. Walking through the whys is what's hard. And I think that's where the actual work happens. Every one of us belongs to a community. It can be a church, fandom, profession, a political movement, a family. And every community needs boundaries. The question isn't whether gates should exist. The question is whether, somewhere along the way, we stopped guarding the treasure and started worshiping the gate. Because if your identity depends on believing everyone else is wrong and has fallen away, you may eventually discover that you've locked yourself inside, that you've created your own apocalypse. Just something to think about. Thank you for hanging out with me. This has been momchalant, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye!